Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a seriously fascinating framework from Sanatana Dharma called Nava Vidha Bhakti. Now, if you hear that and immediately picture ancient texts completely disconnected from your day-to-day reality, hold that thought. I promise you, by the end of our time together, you're going to see exactly how this ancient wisdom fits perfectly into our modern, heavily scheduled, super busy lives. It's actually an incredibly practical toolkit for spiritual connection. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the heart's divine longing. Then, Prahlada's unshaken devotion. Next, the 9 forms explained. After that, devotion in daily life. And finally, a rare human birth. Let's get right into it. All right, Section 1, the heart's divine longing. You know, before we can really dig into the how, we've got to understand the why. And it all starts with this completely universal human truth. The human heart naturally seeks a relationship with the divine. This isn't forced, it's an inherent longing. Regardless of who we are or where we come from, there's this internal compass constantly pointing us toward a deeper connection. It's that natural search for meaning and a relationship with something much greater than ourselves. So, that natural longing we just talked about, it actually finds a really beautiful, tangible expression through bhakti. In Sanatana Dharma, bhakti is defined as the loving devotion to Bhagavān, or the divine. It basically takes that abstract, profound longing of the heart and gives it a highly practical pathway. It's literally the mechanism of love and devotion in action. Moving right along to Section 2, Prahlada's unshaken devotion. The specific forms of this devotion, the 9 forms of bhakti, were famously taught in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam by a pretty incredible figure named Prahlada. Think about the wild contrast of his life story for a second. He was born into a demonic lineage and raised in an environment that was violently hostile to devotion. He was subjected to unimaginable tortures just because of his faith. Yet, despite all of that immense darkness, his devotion to Nārāyaṇa remained completely unwavering and unshaken. He didn't just sit around and theorize about devotion. He battle-tested it in the most extreme circumstances you could possibly imagine. And because his devotion survived literally the ultimate test, his resulting framework is profoundly durable. Prahlada's teachings on bhakti didn't just apply to his specific time and place. No, they continue to guide seekers across generations today. He took this immense spiritual victory and distilled it into a brilliant framework that anyone, anywhere, can use. Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, the 9 forms explained. This is the absolute core of Prahlada's teachings. 9. There isn't just one single, narrow, rigid path to connect with the divine. There are 9 distinct, super flexible ways to express this loving devotion. And honestly, this is such an empowering concept because it recognizes that, well, human beings are incredibly diverse. We all have different inclinations, and because of that, we have multiple entry points to build this relationship. Think of these as a complete spiritual toolkit. First up, we've got Śravaṇam and Kīrtanam. That's listening to and actively singing the glories of Bhagavān. Then Vishnu's Smaraṇam invites you to inwardly remember and contemplate him. As we move outward, Pāda-sevanam and Arcanam are the acts of serving his lotus feet and offering physical items like flowers. Vandanam is the offering of reverential worship. And finally, we reach the really deeply personal forms. Dāsyam, serving as a dedicated servant. Sakhyam, relating to the divine intimately as a friend. And Ātma-nivedanam, which is the complete offering of oneself. Now, here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. You do not have to master all 9 to be successful. No way. These forms aren't mutually exclusive. As a seeker, you might naturally be drawn much more strongly to one specific form. And you know what? That is perfectly fine. Lean into what feels natural. Meanwhile, you can practice several others simultaneously if you want. Together, they offer very simple, totally adaptable ways to cultivate an ever-deepening relationship with Bhagavān. Okay, let's look at section 4, devotion in daily life. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, how on earth do I do this when I have a full-time job, a commute, and a family? Well, I've got great news. Practicing the 9 forms of devotion does not require canceling your Tuesday meetings to go retreat to a mountain cave. You don't have to perform impossible, grueling austerities. Instead, it looks like integration. These practices are designed to be woven directly into the absolute busiest of modern lives, right in the very midst of your family responsibilities and your professional duties. I want to share a quote straight from the source material because it really hits the nail on the head. The 9 forms of devotion are not meant to take us away from life. They can become part of our daily lives. Just let that sink in for a second. Your daily commute, that can be an opportunity for Śravaṇam, listening. Your daily work, frame it as Dāsyam, service. You don't have to escape your life to find the divine. You literally invite the divine into the life you already have. So, to actually make this a real part of your daily routine, treat this as your ongoing game plan. First, strive to understand the core essence of each form. Second, encounter and read about exemplary devotees like Prahlāda who perfectly embody that form. Third, explore the deeper spiritual significance behind those actions. And fourth, discover practical ways to bring it into your specific, unique schedule. Breaking it down exactly like this makes deep spirituality incredibly accessible. And when you do this, it creates this massive ripple effect. Step 1, you integrate these practices into your own busy life. But it definitely doesn't stop with you. Step 2, by living it daily, you naturally pass these practices right on to the next generation. Your kids and your family see devotion as just a normal, joyful part of life. Which leads directly to step 3, you actively ensure that this precious heritage of devotion continues to flourish for centuries to come. Basically, your living room becomes the training ground for ancient wisdom. How cool is that? Finally, let's wrap up with section 5. A rare human birth. We've talked a lot about the how and the what, but as we start to close out, we really need to focus on the urgency of the when. The source material leaves us with this deeply contemplative thought. Human birth is rare and precious, and we should devote some time to bhakti. In the grand scope of the universe, having this human experience with the consciousness and the actual ability to choose devotion is a fleeting, entirely unique opportunity. We spend so much of our time chasing temporary things, right? We owe it to ourselves to devote a portion of this precious time to our eternal connection. So, just to summarize this ultimate flexibility of Nava Vidha Bhakti, you've got 9 distinct forms completely available to you right now. You can practice one, you can practice several, or hey, you can practice all of them. The choice is entirely yours to be made according to your own personal inclination and your current capacity. There's no right or wrong way to start, as long as you actually begin. I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought. Human birth is incredibly rare. With these 9 tools now sitting right there in your spiritual toolkit, how will you cultivate your connection to the divine today? Will you listen? Will you sing? Will you act as a friend? The path is wide open and the choice is entirely yours. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I truly hope this framework brings incredible value to your daily life.